Welcome back to another week of Masterclasses. We are heading towards patch 14.3 soon, which will be dropping on Wednesday. So this is February 7th, and this will be the patch that the second weekend of Heartsteel Cup is played on. So today's class is just going to be talking about the changes to this patch. We won't be talking about any specific comps in particular or what to play. That will be coming out on Thursday's class after the patch drops and we're able to check out the stats, run the numbers, and try out some of the comps ourselves. So 14.3 changes, we're going to be talking about 4 different things today. First one is just system changes. So nothing too crazy, but we'll talk about what the new system changes are and how they affect stage 1. And technically all the other stages, but stage 1 is the most important. We'll be going over the nerfs first and then the buffs. So the nerfs will be able to see what strong comps have been good this previous patch, or this current patch 14.2, and then what has been nerfed and what is not really played anymore, or what would be worse. And then we'll talk about the new buffs that will be on this new patch, so new comps to be considered, and then adjustments that aren't necessarily buffs, aren't necessarily nerfs, just different ways that units will be played from now on. We'll finish off with a reflection, Q&A, wrap everything up, and we're good to go. So patch 14.3 changes, we include Caitlyn and Zed. You'll see that in a second. And we'll start off with the major system changes. So basically there are 2 major system changes. The first one right here is the change where all players will get the same number of items at each stage, regardless of what stage it is in the game. So this really lowers variance in the game. And most importantly, this lowers the stage 1 variance regarding gold starts, because there are a lot of different options of gold or just starts in general on stage 1. Either you get your regular 3 components, either you get 2 components and you get gold start. Sometimes you only just get 1 component and a gold start. Sometimes you have a small Nico and some gold. Sometimes you have a large Nico and some gold. So because of this change, now all players on stage 1 will have the exact same opener of just 3 items, and there will be no more gold starts, and this will really just even out the gameplay a lot just from the start of the game. Now, there will be a loot system rework coming in 14.5, so this will be in 2 patches after this one drops, and there will be more information on that when it comes, but for now this is a temporary fix to really lower variance for the competitive scene. The second major system change is a bug that's been fixed where a headliner trait just appears multiple times back to back. So sometimes you'll be rolling and if you see like a bruiser and then you roll again, you see a bruise right away. That's been fixed, and now we have the actual 4-shop lock as intended when we see a trait that is highlighted in a headliner. So these 2 are the major system changes. Honestly, like the stage 1 gold start being removed is the largest one, and now everyone will be on the same playing field. Sometimes it was very tough if you get dropped a large Nico and 3 gold, and then let's say on Krugs you get an empty Krug. You are very behind on econ, and it's very tough to play the game. So everything is just a lot more even now. So moving on to nerfs, we are going to talk about some traits first. So we'll just ignore emo for now. The first major one is Executioner. So 4 and 6 Executioner has been nerfed regarding the crit strike chance. And so it goes from 100 to 80, and then from 200 to 160. So this is a pretty sizable nerf. We'll have to see exactly how it affects the traits. I mean, Vex already was nerfed this current patch where her CC was cut in half. Now is another Executioner nerf for the 4 to 6. So this comp most likely will no longer be S tier and might still be A tier and still playable, but we'll have to see after the patch actually drops. That's the first nerf. The second one is regarding Heartsteel. I mean, this was due. Heartsteel is just way too strong regarding the kind of win streak aspect of it on later stage. So what they've changed is starting on stage 5 and stage 6. So it'll still be fine for stage 4, but on 5 and 6, the hearts per kill is going to be changed from 2 to 1. So this means that you will be generating much less hearts just based off of your kills. When you have Heartsteel in, this will lead to smaller cash outs and will reduce the snowballing by a lot, starting on stage 5 and 6. There is a small buff, I'll talk about that later, but that is to 10 Heartsteel, and that is pretty rare. And then the very last nerf to our trait section is going to be on Punk. So they left 2 and 4 Punk alone, however they have nerfed the base HP and the attack damage of 6 Punk. So it's just the HP and AD that's nerfed of 6 Punk. 4 Punk is still fine. Most of the time you will be playing 4 Punk unless you high roll a spat and you also have the Punk chosen. So in most generic games, the 4 Punk not being changed means that 4 Punk is still good. You can still reroll it, play around that rapid fire jinx, and you're good to go. So these trait nerfs, we'll have to see exactly what happens to Executioner and Heartsteel, but they're definitely not going to be as good as they are on this current patch. We're going to move on to units next. So Olaf reroll has been affected. As you see, it's only the 3-star version of Olaf that is reduced regarding the heal on auto attack. So this means that Olaf Headliner on stage 2 is still extremely good. It's actually going to be the, well, it already was basically the best, but now is undisputably the best, at least like melee one cost like win streak headliner for stage 2. We'll talk about what happened to Vi after. And then, so that is for only the 3-star Olaf. The next one is going to be Set. So Set is played in a large variety of comps. First off, his HP is going to be nerfed along with his ability damage, his main ability damage, and then the actual cone. So just Set across the board has been nerfed. This will affect Olaf reroll, which is going to be even more affected. So Olaf reroll is definitely not going to be as good as it was on this current patch. It's played in Heartsteel and it's also played in Country. Set was just a good overall mid-game unit, so now with these 3 nerfs, he is definitely going to take a hit on him. And then last but not least, Mordekaiser. His damage was nerfed across the board for 1, 2, and 3 costs, and this will affect the pentakill comps and also any of the 3-cost reroll comps, so like Yone and Riven. Yone was not played much anyway because of Heartsteel, but definitely it will affect the Riven comps and the pentakill comps. Okay, so moving on to headliner nerfs. I talked about a little bit why in the previous slide of why Olaf will be better now, but now Vi headliner loses 50 HP, and this is pretty big because this affects like her healing with Mosher, and overall just like less base HP. It means that she'll be easier to kill, won't be able to just sustain and drain tank as much. So Olaf is definitely going to be the pick over Vi headliner starting on this new patch. Kale reroll also got nerfed a little bit, 5% attack speed. So this means that Kale reroll and also just using Kale as a mid-game carry is going to be a lot, or not a lot weaker, just weaker than before. So we're almost done with the nerfs here. Those are the units and the traits. Moving on to augments. The only augment that is nerfed on patch 14.3 is going to be Twin Terror. And they affected the health and the attack speed of both Twin Terror 1 and Twin Terror 2, so the gold and prismatic versions are both nerfed. So if we take into consideration the Twin Terror 1 and 2 nerfs, we take into consideration the 4 Executioner nerfs, this means that this whole line of the Executioner's Twin Terror is going to be a lot weaker. Both of these nerfs just combined together. We're going to have to see if 4 exec is still playable with Twin Terror, and then we'll have to see maybe it will be Lulu, maybe it'll be Punk instead. But definitely 4 Executioner and Twin Terror, the nerfs together, means that that comp is definitely going to take a hit. We'll have to see what happens after Wednesday. Okay, so that is all for the nerfs. I'll just quickly sum up, right? So trait-wise, 4 and 6 Executioner, Heartsteel on stage 5 and 6, and also 6 Punk. That was nerfed. Olaf reroll has been nerfed because of the 3-star, but the 1 and 2-star is still fine, and that makes Olaf better on stage 2 compared to the Vi chosen. Mordekaiser and Set has been nerfed, so that's like Pentakill, Olaf reroll, Heartsteel, and Country. We talked about the Vi nerfs and the Kale nerfs, and then last but not least the Twin Terror nerfs and how that combined with the 4 Execution nerf is going to really damage that line. So we're going to move on to the buffs now. The first buff is going to be Emo, so this is only considering the 6 piece, where now we're going to go from 10 AP to 20 AP. So the 6 Emo AP has been doubled now to 20. 6 Emo is a little bit hard to hit. You need a spat and you also need an Emo chosen, but maybe those will open up more lines that are playable. And then, as I mentioned, the small buff, well, technically it's a pretty large buff. However, it'll only affect a small percentage of games just because Heartsteel is so hard to hit for the 10 piece. But 10 Heartsteel Heart Multiplier got buffed all the way from 10 to 18. So that's pretty big. If you hit 10 Heartsteel, you're probably going to win the game. So that's for the traits. Moving on to units, we have a lot of unit buffs. I'll start off with the low costs. So we have Jax, Garen, Senna for our 2 costs. Jax just has a damage buff across the board, and I'll actually talk about Lux as well. So both Lux and Jax got damage buffs across the board for their 1, 2, and 3 stars. This means that Jax reroll might be coming back, because if you hit Jax 3 and Lux 3 with these new buffs, they are going to really find success. So keep an eye out for that. We might talk about that on Thursday, how Jax reroll is back. We'll talk about BIS, how to play the comp, but EDM reroll definitely may be a line that comes back. Senna just has a overall buff in general to her damage, and this is per pulse, and she shoots out 3 pulses, so just keep that in mind. And then our next set that I want to talk about is the Garen and Caitlyn pair, or I guess like duo. So we have 8-bit here. Caitlyn, as seen within this current patch, was just like a worse version of Ezreal within the 80 flex line for a 4 cost. So they gave her a nice mana buff. Now this will be like 2 less auto attacks to cast, and because of the 5, like sometimes you have Shojin on her from Superfan, which is not very good. But if you do end up having something like that, then at least the 5 will reduce 1 auto attack needed to cast. So a nice mana buff to Caitlyn, no damage there changed. However, Garen does have a buff to his HP, so you're going to have a little bit of a tankier Garen, and you're going to have a quicker cast Caitlyn, which means that that line is going to be better. Also, the Riven line will be better, because we're going to be playing 4 8-bit, hopefully with the 8-bit chosen Riven, and then Garen as our 3rd and our Caitlyn as our 4th. So even though Mordekaiser takes a hit in that Riven line, at least Garen gets a buff and Caitlyn gets a buff. The very last one I want to talk about for unit buffs is Twisted Fate. So in the previous patch, not only was his mana increased to 120, his damage was also decreased. So now they have reverted the mana buff, and you will almost always have Shojin on Twisted Fate, so this is just going to be 1 auto attack faster. Now you only need 7. However, they did not revert his damage buff, which means that Twisted Fate is still not as good as he was previously on 14.1, but he is going to be better than he was on this current patch 14.2. I'll talk about more about the Disco comp on Thursday, but I think Twisted Fate, you have to play when you're ahead, and definitely either if you're able to go level 9 with a good board and then roll down for Twisted Fate plus Alawi, or just have Alawi in general, because Alawi without Disco without Alawi is not very good. So these are unit buffs. The biggest one to keep an eye out for is the Jax and Lux. Both of these getting buffed, especially their 3-star versions. So EDM reroll might be making a comeback. We'll be playing Jax again, maybe. And the next couple buffs is going to be the 5 cost. So Jhin, his defensive stats are buffed. So this is his resistances from 30 to 40, both of them. And he gets 100 extra HP. So tankier Jhin means he lives longer, being able to output more damage, maybe stack some more violins. We'll see what happens to Jhin, but he's actually a pretty decent carry as long as you have blue buff. Gunblade is very good on him, or Edge of Night, and then 1 damage item, either Infinity Edge, Giant Slayer, or Deathblade. The other 5 cost that has been buffed is Sona, so this is specific to her heal form. So most of the time we do attack speed Sona almost in every comp. If we have damage items on her, or like ability power items on her, we're able to do the damage form of her ability, but the heal form is basically never touched. So they buffed the passive versions, the passive auto attacks from 5 to 8 to 6 to 9, and this is percentage max HP heal. So this is actually pretty good, almost like a 10% max HP heal for her targets whenever she's auto attacking. So if you give her a Rage Blade, give her a Shojin, she'll be able to heal a lot just through passively. And then the shield timing actually goes up for half a second on the actual ability. So Sona heal form might be making a comeback. We'll have to see, especially in stall comps. I think this will be extremely good. And considering the amount of nerfs that the attack speed form has received in the past like couple patches, I think heal will definitely have its place in specific spots. So these are the 5 cost unit buffs. We'll talk about the headliners. So Mortdog explained the changes to Zed. So the Zed headliner will still be 100 HP, 100 HP. However, it used to be his shadows got 10% attack speed and 80. Now they're removing the shadow part to his buffs, or the shadow part to the headliner, and they're instead just giving the actual headliner Zed 5% AD. So after the math is done, Mortdog says it's a slight buff to headliner Zed, which is a little bit concerning because this unit is just way too good. You give him one healing, one healing Edge of Night, and then 1 damage item, and he is just takes over the whole board basically with good setup. And then the other headliner buff is to Sona, so another buff to Zona. Now her attack speed per attack is doubled from 1% to 2%, so there might be definitely some heal form Sona with now the new heal passive buffs and the heal ability buff, along with, if you have her as a headliner, she'll be casting a lot more often with this attack speed buff as well. So these are the two headliner buffs to keep in mind. Zed is definitely still going to be extremely strong. Yeah, he's just going to be very strong. Moving on to augments, so balanced budget is basically never taken on 4-2. It has its spot on 3-2, but never basically on 4-2. So now there's balanced budget plus. So this will give 9 gold per round throughout the next 4 rounds. So now we are going from, we're going all the way up to 36 gold, which is pretty good. I want to talk about the smaller ones, like bigger shots. So this for your big shot units, it's going to go from 85 to 100%. The bomb damage, that's pretty good. Very good for like the Kaisa, Bard, and Misfortune Jazz comp. Heartthrobs, 20 to 25% for the bonus hearts. Heartthrobs is still averaging like a fifth or like 5.1. That's not very good. And also Heartsteel is about to get nerfed as well. So we're really gonna have to see if this changes anything. I don't think it will. The two augments that I do want you to keep an eye out for, and of course I'll let you know if this changes, is Switching Gears and Endless Hordes. So Switching Gears is basically a never take at 2 gold per swap. It's just a worse version of last set's Inconsistency, which was an insane silver augment. But now you're getting 3 gold per swap whenever you go from lose streak to win streak. And because of the recent streak changes, building an economy is much harder than before, because now you need like a streak of 3 to actually start streaking, and you can't even get plus 3 gold from your 5 streak on stage 2. It will now just be plus 2 because of the streak changes. So getting extra gold from your gold generating augments is extremely good. That's why Spoils of War is performing so well right now. So switching gears, going from 2 to 3 might be a very big deal, and it will definitely either be strong or at least takeable on the new patch. Endless Hordes, the HP reduction is going from 20% to 15%, and this is per unit. You have to remember that. So now you're saving at least 5% HP on every unit, so the reduction is less, and Endless Hordes is definitely going to be a lot stronger this patch than it was on this current 14.2. Last but not least, Starter Kit also grants 4 gold. I don't think Starter Kit is that good. Some people really enjoy it, or at least the gambling aspect of it, but I think it's too risky, and for a Prismatic, I just think there's definitely better prismatics. But hey, if you want to go for starter kits and hopefully like high roll a Z or something, then go for it. Take the risk. Well, these are the augment buffs, and we'll talk about item buffs next. So Deathfire Grasp, or DFG, is one of the Ornn augments. It's actually, I think, the worst performing Ornn augment right now. You could check out the Ornn augment video that I created for FITGMR. Check out that class if you want more description on why it's bad. But a 5 AP buff, I don't think will really change anything. There's just not too many good users until like later into the game, and even like that's not that great. So I don't think DFG or Deathfire Grasp is going to change at all. Goldmancer, however, gets an extra 15 AP on the base, which is actually quite a lot. So Goldmancer is now definitely more of a raw AP item than gold generation. One thing to note is there's no other buff to Goldmancer apart from the base AP. So it's just pure raw AP. It's not even like Rabadon's, where Rabadon's gives you 20% bonus damage. There's no bonus damage with Goldmancer, it's just raw AP. So definitely keep that in mind depending on who you're putting this item on. But it's more of a raw AP item now than gold generation. And then last two items I'll talk about is Runons and Shiv. So Runons actually got buffed recently. I don't remember if it was last patch or this actual patch, but now it's getting buffed again, where the bolt damage gets increased by 5%. So this is very good. I mean, Runons is already a very strong slam on stage 2. It just has a bit more of an awkward spot later in the game, but early game, Runons is very good. And they also buffed the Radiant version. And then same with Shiv, so damage is increased by 5. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, Shiv and Runons are very good stage 2 slams. They just have a harder time like finding their spot later into the game. So hopefully with these buffs, they'll be able to have at least better users and have more incentive for players to use them early. One thing to note is I think Runon is actually quite decent on Caitlyn. Like, she has so much AD, and yes, she does a lot of damage through her ability, but she also does a lot of damage through her auto attacks. So with the Caitlyn buff, Garen buff, Runon's buff, well, Runon's double buff, maybe then we will have a line there. And then last but not least, we'll talk about our adjustments. Karthus, I read somewhere that Taiwan thinks this is an actual buff. Well, I don't know the numbers 100%. However, with the changes, basically the first cast is nerfed. As you see from the actual damage numbers here, like the first cast is going to do less damage. I think that was the problem because sometimes even on current patch Karthus like 14.2, if you're facing against a Heartsteel board but it's a 1-star Ezreal, Karthus will just one-shot it from the cast, right, or from the first cast right from the get-go. So now the first cast does less damage and consecutive casts are stronger, so second plus, because we're now going from 30 to extra 40 AP per cast. So what this means is now maybe mana generation item might be a bit better than raw damage. We'll have to see how best in slot plays out, but you definitely want to be casting a lot more often than before, just because like the first cast is going to do less damage, but your second cast is going to do more, and your third cast will do so much more. Also, this makes Archangels even worse now. I mean, Archangels was not an ideal item for Karthus, but you will get Archangels if you're playing Superfan, and Superfan fits into the Pentakill board. So sometimes if the Karthus chosen is, or Karthus Headliner is your only out, you have to pick it up and then just deal with Archangels. But now, because you're getting like, the way it's changed, you're getting like more AP per cast, then like you really want other stats than just like more AP. So Archangel's just worse. Yeah, nothing we can really do about that, but we'll see what the other two items are. I mean, it's going to be Shojin +1, but definitely focus on mana generation because you're going to be wanting to cast more often with the new Karthus changes. And that's all. So that's it for today's class. I'll just reiterate everything pretty fast. So I talked about the nerfs, 6 emo buffed, 10 Heartsteel buffed. We're gonna have to keep an eye out for EDM reroll just because of the Jax and Lux buffs across the board. I mean, Garen and Caitlyn, they both got buffs, so the 8-bit line is a bit stronger. Senna just got Senna got a buff, but I'm not sure if this will bring Senna reroll back. Like it might. You definitely need a true damage spat and play 6 true damage and do a Kali, and also need Kiana. So there's a lot of conditions for that. Twisted Fate from high roll positions with the new mana changes. Jhin is better. I wouldn't say he's like that great. I think Lucian is still better than Jhin, but at least he got some buffs. You're gonna have heal form Sona sometimes. That depends on your spot, but the passive healing being increased and the actual shielding being increased is good, along with her actual attack speed from being at Headliner. Zed Headliner is gonna be really good now. I mean, it already was. Bounce budget, if you're in a spot, you can take it on 4-2. And then maybe switching gears will come back. Endless Hordes is good. And these are all the buffs. Deathfire Grass, I don't think it will change too much. Goldmasters as a raw AP item will give you a lot more AP now. At least like starting early game, like extra 15 AP just from 2-1 if you get it is actually quite a big deal. It can swing some fights. Runons and Shiv being better, and then the adjustment to Karthus of how his first cast deals less damage, but consecutive casts will be stronger. That's all for today. If you're watching this on YouTube, then thank you so much for watching. Come check out the live masterclasses from the Discord, so check out the description. And for those who are in the live masterclass, we can answer any questions now or go over anything.